You're listening to the She Lift Project podcast, a show dedicated to helping women achieve higher levels of success in the workplace. No matter where you are in your career, we want to help you grow. Now here's your host, Cynthia Kirkpatrick, a CPA, CFP, and Senior Financial Advisor at Moneta Group.
Welcome to another episode of the She Lift Project podcast. I'm Cynthia Kirkpatrick. Thanks for joining us today. And in the other seat, you'll see Jana Franklin. She is entrepreneur extraordinaire, I feel like, and you'll explain more, but always looking at ways to help other busy people be efficient and effective and be great at what they do. Many different hats that you've worn, but most recent is CEO Concierge. Mm-hmm. And I know when we went for a walk and talk a while back, you were president of the St. Louis EO Group and many, many hats before then. So thanks for joining us today.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I have passed that baton of now I am past president of Entrepreneurs Organization. It's been a relief. Learning curve was very interesting. Learned a lot with that role of leading leaders. You know, when you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, you lead a team and they're collecting a check from you. So they have a tendency more to listen. And whereas entrepreneurs and other business owners are like, no, but my idea is better than your idea. So, it's been at this for a while, quite frankly. So been an entrepreneur for 20 years.
I was going to say, once a president, always a president. Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. Like that's your serial history is either some sort of like sales, which is very entrepreneurial wherever you're at, and starting businesses, running businesses, starting new things, being that kind of, I don't know, I want to say idea, et cetera. And that's really probably what led to CEO Concierge, having been and seeing and leading a lot of CEOs, probably seeing the help that they need.
Yeah. Well, it really started because with owning the Jimmy John's, so we have 6 stores now, and then the hair salons, which we actually are folding those in now. We have closed one and we've sold one. So we will be out of that franchise after 20 years. But COVID hit and I was as a normal person, wearing a lot of hats, not only in my professional life, but in my personal life as well, with a mother of 2 teenage boys and my husband who acts like a teenage boy. So
they all do sometimes.
I know. And just was so exhausted from balancing and bouncing around and never actually going anywhere, but wearing hats that I didn't enjoy, wearing hats that I couldn't do the work. Prime example is I spent last week working on bills for 4 hours, and it used to take my bookkeeper maybe an hour and she'd have them all done, and I had 4 hours and I had barely touched them. So, I know I'm not strong in that world, and so I wanted people to help me be strong so I can focus. So the concept was when I brought virtual assistants into the Jimmy John's to help me be in the areas that I am not strong at, so I could focus on the areas I'm strong at. So basically, it's almost like I'm cloned myself, so I can be in 2 places at once. The efficiency is amazing. The level of professionalism that I get from my virtual assistants, the ability because I have very low detail, so they are very high detail. I have low patience and a high sense of urgency. They have a lot of patience, but still a high sense of urgency. So I really was like, how can we do this? And in talking to a girlfriend of mine who is a entrepreneur as well, single mother of 2 teenage boys, she was using VAs as well. And we're like, we know what? We need to take what we've learned and introduce this out to other business entrepreneurs, CEOs, to have them grasp it and say, look, you don't have to do it all. We're not good at it all. So why should we attempt to be good at it all? And so we rolled with what we learned. Our training programs, we use personality profiling, which is really important for us because it's making sure that we're finding that person that's going to mesh well, because that's half the battle. If you can work with someone, right? And so it's allowed us to really focus on the individual clients. Someone called me a headhunter the other day. I'm not really a headhunter. We'll go out and find that specific skill set, specific personality, and all the things that they need to be done, whether it's certain platforms, certain CRMs, certain whatever they need, we will go find that person individually, and we will do all the screening, and we will roll it out, and we will do all the training, and then we will support them on the backside. So it's been fun. We are female focused, male friendly is what I like to say. I come at it from a standpoint of being the female more so, obviously. And so that has been a huge help too, just taking that approach.
So explain that.
Yeah. So I think, and I'll probably get comments about this, but I think that females have a tendency to be more perfectionist. They have a tendency, I think, to come at it with even some feelings. They don't want to they don't want to give control over, but they're overwhelmed, right? So how can we help them? And a lot of them don't know what to ask for, because in the end, they're like, I'll just do it myself. And this is where the overwhelmness. So it's a hamster wheel. And so it's really helping that client say to them, you can give that to your virtual assistant. They are perfectly capable of that. Why are you stuck in the weeds on that particular thing? You even said on our call that you hate doing it. So kind of replaying what they say back. Whereas men are kind of at least from what I can tell, they're like, here's the list, do the list, go. Right. And so women are I think more willing to keep checking. And almost the micromanaging comes into play. And then it's still the same problem that they're okay, you're still wasting time because you're micromanaging now. And I try to say to them, because people sometimes get upset, or not upset, but they can't understand bringing a virtual assistant in, right? Versus having someone in the next office. But with COVID and all the workforce, not all, but a lot going remote, it's no different. The difference is they're in a different country, but they're working your hours. And their English is impeccable. And those are all the things we're screening for anyways. So even if their English wasn't impeccable, they would never see the client because they're not going to get past our stringent interview process. But that's kind of how I try to talk to some of the clients, because they're like, well, I need them in the next room. And I'm like, well, where's your CFO right now? And they're like, well, she's in Connecticut and I'm in New York. And I'm like, okay, well, how's that any different? So they're like, oh yeah. So it's just, I think it goes back to that control.
There's a couple lanes we could go in on this, continuing down the business part or talking about the female aspect of it, which I find interesting, being female. And hence the reason for this podcast is talking to so many women who have similar issues and challenges, some internal, some external. I think you're right. It for whatever reason, it goes back to whether it was at the home, taking care of the kids, hey, you have to do it all. You have to be good at it all and make sure it gets done flawlessly. So try to relay that into business. You're trying to keep it all together at home and do the same thing at work. It's impossible.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's, unrealistic. And even if you have a partner supporting you, it's still unrealistic, because, oh gosh, like you said, we could go down a rabbit hole with this, but there's certain connotations, certain perceptions that are there. And I think that, I'm very guilty of it. I'm going to be just as good as the next person. And so how am I going to get there? I'm going to find the support I need to get there. And hopefully those people are carrying me on their back. But I want to recognize them too. Because to me, that's the other thing is, my work-life balance, but their work-life balance, my professional and personal development, their professional and personal development. And I think that's really key too. But I think that we are more hesitant. I find my women clients are more hesitant to jump faster than my male clients. My male clients are like, okay, where do I need to sign? And my female clients are like, well, let me think about this longer, and let me go back to the team and let me ask them what they think, and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, but you initially made the inquiry because something was bothering you, typically it's usually something that has bothered you that day and you're like, I can't handle it anymore. I need help. So whether it's an executive virtual assistant, or for me, I have bookkeepers in my company that are doing it virtually now. So it's whatever they need to support it. I mean, my virtual assistant, my executive virtual assistant does anything. Like, she has planned trips for us. She helped me with some of the college, visits, where she is chasing, as I'm shutting down the salon, she's the one calling and canceling all the services. I'm not having to spend my time on the phone, which half the time is the battle.
Right. Salesperson, actual reception, whoever,
exactly.
Give me to that person.
Yeah. Pushing 0 50 times. I want to speak to a representative. That was me earlier today, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I give up. So I handed it to my VA. I was like, you know what? It's your turn to try this because I'm not getting anywhere. See if you get faster.
I already feel like I don't even have one, but relief of stress coming off just hearing that somebody else can do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes a huge difference. I love being in the Jimmy John's. I love being in the stores. I want to be in the stores. I want to be greeting people. I want to be helping my team. That's not where I can be if I've got other things going on. And so for me to be able to go in the store and let my virtual assistants handle any problems, whether it's tech, POS, anything, they do the training on the POS too, and then teach me in 5 minutes how to do it. So they're watching hours and hours of videos, right? And then they're like, hey, Jana, let's have a Zoom call. And they'll teach me in 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, you watched 2 days of videos. I didn't have to. So things like that, it's like, okay, what can I pass off next? Like today, this afternoon, I was kind of like, why do I have a minute to like breathe, And it's because everyone's doing what they need to be doing.
Going back to some things you said there, It's like you can't do everything and be good at it all and do it all well.
Right.
And I feel like with a lot of the business owners we've had on, or people who've been an entrepreneur at one point, a lot of them say that they went from doing everything with an inability to then scale, or work-life balance, or, the health issues with no sleep, et cetera, et cetera. You have to, in order to get over that hump, you have to at some point bring people in so that you can then go do what you're good at, which is building the business, hopefully.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm very good at operations, for me, and sales, whereas I'm not good at, and Rick will concur, my husband, when it comes to the finances. I mean, I can read a P&L, I understand everything, but I'm just like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Where I'm just like, okay, that's probably not the right attitude. And I have changed that attitude over time, but it's exactly it. It's allowing me to grow. And like, if it's me being in the stores to help grow them, then someone else is taking care of the minutia and I don't have to anymore. Or if I'm, I can be on client calls, I can be on, talking to clients about how to get where I'm at with their virtual assistants too, because they're not there. And it's like, well, try this trick, try this. And you won't grow. You can't do it all. And a lot of people, I think the other thing is the resources. Like, they come with a high level of efficiency. And what I mean by that is I am so impressed with the level of technology they know. So we had a client doing spreadsheets on Excel, trying to manage their database via Excel and Google Sheets. And at some point when you get to a level, you have to go into some type of platform. So the virtual assistants introduced Airtable to him and taught his team how to do Airtable. And now he's using Airtable. And now he's like, holy crap, my level of efficiency has gone up. So I'm not having to spend all this time in these Excel spreadsheets and these Google Sheets. He's in Airtable, which is a lot of automation. So things like that have really made a difference. And now he's being able to focus where he needs to be.
I gotta ask, what's Airtable?
It's like a spreadsheet database. It's a database management system, but what's nice about it is the automation. So we use it for all of our employee tracking. We use it for all of our client tracking. We use it for billing. So, but it's every team has a different file, and they all can connect. And so if I am in it and I'm sending comments, they're automatically seeing the comments. Like, Jana, hey, send a message to you via the comment, and they can go and read the whole thing. And then I just attach all the links too. So it's like a huge database that we hold things in. It's similar to like in Asana or a Hello Monday or Trello. It's a little bit more detailed though, because it acts more of a spreadsheet function.
So you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And pulling people in to fill in those gaps that either you don't know or you don't like.
Exactly.
Can enhance the business. And I would imagine enhance your just life in general, because you're not spinning in the places that you hate.
Yeah. I mean, I can have lunch with a friend because I'm not knee deep in whatever. I can actually go home at night and actually feel a little bit of levity that I'm not going to be sitting on my computer while my kids are around me. I can actually sit down at dinner and have a conversation and actually maybe do something with them, whereas before I was, okay, great. That was dinner. Okay, you guys go to your silos. I'm going to my silo. And it's made a huge difference. I think it makes a huge difference with people's mindsets. I think for the longest time I was just angry because I was like, I'm just overwhelmed all the time. I just forgot what the saying is.
Fight or flight.
Thank you. Fight or flight. I'm like, flight or flip or whatever. But yeah, I think you get in that mode when you're always trying to like put out fires. And so your body feels it. And I just don't have that feeling, the physiology feeling anymore that I'm like, ugh, and I think that's made a huge difference.
And it gives you really a lot of extra time to come on a crazy, great podcast that you would be worried about how I'm going to fit this in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I know that feeling though. And I think many people, especially as you said, many women who are moms also, that constant angst of so much to do, angry, but also that fear layered in of, am I even doing any of this well? Am I being a good mom, a good spouse, a good, leader at work? And those fears coupled with the anger, and I think, that hamster wheel, the constant circling in your head is exhausting.
So exhausting. I mean, I'd be curious to know out of everyone you've talked to, like, do they have sleep issues? Because I think that really shows up for women. Sleep issues, because we can't turn our brains off, right? And so I think that's a huge problem. And if you can leave work at work because you have someone else picking up the pieces, or eventually, okay, I didn't get that done today, but let me talk to my team tomorrow to help me get that done. And it might take 20 to 30 minutes to explain it, but they're working on it while you're still working on what you need to work, makes a huge difference. And I think it brings that calming feeling to your body. And I don't know if the imposter syndrome is as strong then. I don't feel like I don't think I carry the guilt as much as I used to with my children. Because I think that happens a lot with women owners, business owners, working women. I think that, and this is where I said we can go down a rabbit hole, society paints us a certain way that we need to do it all, right? And so I think that that's why it just brings out that natural feeling of like, I can take a deep breath. I actually am getting stuff done. I actually am, well, if you ask my 13-year-old today, I'm probably just an okay mom, right? Where if you ask my 17-year-old, who's like, you're awesome, mom. So I don't have that. I don't have that guilt anymore. And that for the longest time I did.
All of this sounds like a great idea and such like an aha moment. I can't imagine that you get there overnight. That is probably a lot of experiences and learning along the way. So if we rewind time, a lot of what you started in was sales.
Actually, I was with May Merchandising, which owned Lord and Taylor, famous bar. Hex, all the change. And I was there for 11 years. And when Federated came in and bought us in 06, I severanced out. And in 04, Rick, my husband, had severanced out of his company because it was moving to Boston, and we had just gotten back to St. Louis, and I was like, we're not moving again. So he bought in. My uncle, who's an entrepreneur, said, now's the time, if you guys are going to do it, to use your severance to buy businesses or whatever. So he did it, and then his mom became terminal, and so I ended up having to run the hair salons. And so we had 2 at that point. And so in 06, when Federated bought us, I severanced out. We were opening our 3rd hair salon. So it was a natural progression for me to be able to go into the hair salons and run them. So we got up to 5 hair salons, 1 a year until 08.
Why hair salons? How?
Well, that's a good question for Rick. But so he's like, I want to own a business. I want to own a franchise. Because when you buy a franchise, you're supposed to get systems and operating procedures, policies and procedures. This organization does not really do that very well. So we learned trial by error. I had management experience because before I was at May Merchandising, I was a manager in Famous Bar. So I had that HR experience and the management experience of running teams. And then in 2010, Rick was talking to a gentleman that owned a Jimmy John's out in St. Charles County, and he was talking about the money that this guy was making. Like, they're making so much money, we need to go investigate into Jimmy John's. So we went over to Champaign, where they're based out of, and we drank the Kool-Aid. Like, that day, we signed up. We built our first store in Wood River, Illinois, and it's a standalone Jimmy John's drive-through. So we own the real estate in a separate company, and then the Jimmy John's is owned in another company. And from there, we just kept like, okay, how can we get more? How can we get more? And so in 2012, we bought an existing one, and we built Chippewa. And then every year after that, we opened like 2 a year. Yeah. And so then 2017 hit, 2017 hit, and we grew too fast. We grew too fast. I did not have, because Rick was working during all this, I did not have enough support. I did not have enough of our own standard procedures within our company to grow. I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And I had to take a really hard look about how we were going to move forward. And at that point, we got rid of some. We got rid of some Jimmy John's.
What was the moment where you were like, how did you know? Was there a certain incident? Was there... Uh-oh.
I'm sure there was. Now it's a blur, which is good. We got a little overextended. We got into some leases that could not support the store traffic, the store traffic did not support the leases. They were too high. And this was actually, someone had approached me and said, can you take these 2 stores? And I was like, sure, we can take these 2 stores. Well, I shouldn't have taken these 2 stores. They were out of where we were. They were too far away. I was driving from Ellisville all the way to Wood River. I mean, just distance wise, couldn't support the stores, because now my stores are all grouped together. They can support each other. Like, if there's a driver that calls off, we can pull a driver over to another store. Just too broad of a space, and just the lease financially got us into some trouble. So we got out of them, and I just said, no, we're not going to grow. We're not going to grow. We got to get ourselves figured out. We've got to get the right people in the right spots, and just did that. Kind of got lean too. We got lean because I was like, I think we got to reset. I think we really have to reset. And so we reset, and then John, the actual man, went and sold Jimmy John's to Inspire Brands in 2018. So when that happened, a lot of other things were happening. So that's when I really started looking at, okay, how can I get support? And so I brought in people in the office, trial by error. My bookkeeper was awesome. The rest were more part-time, come to work when their kids were in school, would leave. And then they started their own businesses and took off, which is great because I want to support that. My bookkeeper just left last month, so that's where I've been struggling. But now that she's gone, I'm like, okay, VAs, right? But that's where we've been. That's where I've been. And so when we started with the virtual assistants in 2020, I was like, okay, there's something here too. I'm one of those people that if I have an idea, I got to try it. If I don't have an idea, there's a saying, and I think it's actually an Audrey Hepburn saying or someone, but you got to try it. If you'll never know if you're going to make it unless you don't try. And I kind of take that approach, and failure, I guess, is an option for me, but it's not something that I get upset about, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs have to take that approach because otherwise you won't grow. If you don't take chances, you're not going to grow. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. But
well, maybe that goes back to what you did with Jimmy John's, is to say, whoa, wait, we're not going to grow. We're going to scale back. We're going to get lean. It's almost like a pause, which is rare, right?
Yeah.
Because in business, it's go,
Yes.
go. Next thing, next milestone, keep going.
Yeah.
Yet there are times when that pause and putting on the brakes instead. So I think almost of driving, right? You could keep going down that path, but you're going to get further from the destination if you didn't just pause, pull off to the side of the road, ask for directions, and take the other route.
Yeah, because, I could say, oh, yeah, I've got 15 Jimmy John's and I do $17 million in revenue. But if I'm still doing the same profitability of 4 Jimmy John's, it's like, okay, what's the point? And that's what it got to, right? It's like, okay, I have 3 Jimmy John's that weren't doing any business very well. And so I was like, we got to get rid of them. We got to get lean and reset. And then with that, taking what I learned from that and being very cautious in my new endeavors, which is not my personality at all. It's like I have to slow down. I have to think about it and actually take Rick's thoughts into play. Take, other people, call the banker, ask them if they think this is a smart move, call my CPA, see what ramifications it's going to have before I be like, zoop, like you said, on that road. And it's been a great reset for us because I've learned so much from it and how to scale smart.
So here's the softball question, right down the middle of the plate. Would you change what you did with Jimmy John's at all if you could?
Yeah, probably. There's a store I got rid of that I probably wish I wouldn't have got rid of. It was a low hanging fruit, but it now sits in my little world that I need to be in. But at the same time, I think everything I've done, I've learned from. And if anything, it's actually allowed me to say no. And I think I always was hesitant about saying no. Like, what am I going to miss if I say no? Like
FOMO.
Yeah. It's not, for me, it wasn't FOMO. It was like, I'm not going to have another opportunity. So it wasn't a fear of missing out. It's like, is there going to be any more Jimmy John's opportunities in St. Louis for me to buy? I don't really, like, there's other owners that own like in 3 different states, and I can't even imagine. I can barely handle the ones we have in the same city. So I can't imagine that because I do want to have interaction with my people, and at least on a weekly basis in person. And if I'm running from a different state, to me, that's harder. With this concept now with CEO, it works perfectly, right? But this concept to me, I think needs to have, because you want to keep the culture.
And all the conversations that we have, it goes back to knowing who you are, what drives you, what role or hat you want to have in the moment. And as you said, if you had different states, it wouldn't allow you to do it the way you want to do it.
No. And I want my management team and my people to see me being like, I have a couple things when I train. Sometimes I'll go in and train the assistants, and because they'll see me on the ground cleaning the grease trap. They'll see me standing on a ladder trying to get a cobweb from a light bulb. I can't expect them to do it if I won't do it. And that to me is, I've got to be visible. For example, yesterday we had a store getting just hit really hard, and I was in the area. I was in street clothes, but I went in and I didn't get on the line to help them with customers, but I went in and I got them like cleaned up. I helped them. I got bread in the oven for them and did that stuff. I was there maybe 40 minutes and I left. I mean, so it's also taking their physiology that they're having of overwhelmness and trying to add that, help them. So it's just kind of like pay it forward.
And it's almost, I feel like you have to have that medium where you know when to get in and do those things, but also not let yourself get stuck in doing those things.
Well, also not to create the illusion to my people that I'm going to come in and save the day. Because they have to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. They have to be able to. And if they can't, that goes back to right people in the right seats, then we got to find a different role for them.
Yeah, and that seems, whether it's I'm sitting here thinking parenting, leadership, owning businesses, all of that, you have to be able to step in and help out certain times. But as you said, if they can't, for the most part, run on their own or do things on their own, then you're harming the long-term success.
For sure. It's really interesting. I'm going through this program through EO. It's called an Entrepreneur's Master Program. It's a 3-year program. I'm finishing the first year. And we had a female come. Her name's Lindsay Pollock. She is a researcher in multi-generational workforce. And I had such aha moments listening to her. Like, I know, I'm a Gen Xer and I know I deal with millennials and, every generation before us complains about the generation below them. And I was like, I cannot communicate with some of these people. Like, I'm telling them, I'm asking them, I'm saying the why. It's just like, good Lord, And so I'm sitting there and I'm actually having this an issue with one of my area managers who's a millennial. And I'm sitting there listening to this lady talk and she's like, try this. Like, she's giving us how to try millennials or how to try Gen Zers. Like, if you're in this age group, this is how you talk to them. And I was like, instead of just responding to her, I'm in a class, I'll have to call you later, I took the page out of this lady's book and I was like, okay, so what's the issue? How does this make you feel? That's not me, but it really made a huge difference in the way her and I communicated from there and on. So trying to remember that when I'm in my Jimmy John's or wherever, what generation am I talking to right now? And how are they going to react to me? And that's made a huge difference too with making sure people are in the right seats because if they're not, on top of the generational differences, it's a disaster.
Well, and I think both on people who are on your team and working in those stores or in your, office businesses, but also then learning how to use that to deal with different ages of clients and customers.
Oh, for sure.
And that would be so helpful.
Yeah. I can't remember the title of her book, but I will send it over to you. But it's a great book. I recommend it to a lot of people. It's so funny too, because in this group, we have an accountability group and there's 7 of us total. And we're all in the United States and one in Guatemala. And it's so interesting when we talk about each speaker, because none of us took the same things away from each speaker. So I'm having a lot more aha moments with that. But they were like, Jana, you got so much more out of multi-generational. And I'm looking on the call and I'm like, am I the oldest one on this call? And I actually wasn't. So it was really interesting going through that section of that class, because it does make a huge difference.
So you have the Jimmy John's, the hair salons. You've grown too fast. You're pulling back. You're also now divesting some of the hair salons, moving through that.
Yeah.
Like, where do we pick up on that story and where does it go?
So COVID killed the hair salons. COVID really did detrimental to the beauty industry as a whole, like not just hair salons, lash salons, massage parlors, like, Massage Envy is going through a huge closure issue right now. anything beauty related, self-care related, which is interesting because it is a huge business. But when I say self-care, I'm like med spas are bigger now, right? So we had to physically shut down because of COVID for 3.5 months. And it just was so detrimental to the employees and to the customers. Learned how to do things. I mean, I think I have 5 friends that probably have gone gray because of it, just like, I'm going to embrace my grays. I'm not going to get hair colored. I think, people were cutting their kids' hair. We lost a lot of our kids' customers. And so it was a company that is in distress. The franchise is in distress, and it's had problems with its identity. And so being a franchise owner in that was very stressful, because it's like, okay, this CEO is going to do this. Oh, now we have a new CEO. Oh, now here's the direction. Oh, now it's another one. So it's just like, okay, enough already. I think if we would have owned the Jimmy John's first, we would have never gone into the hair salon business. So lesson learned. And I mean, my team is great. They will still contact each other. They'll still, check in with me. And it was just a time for me to, like, I can't give you guys the attention you need, and you're not making the amount of profits that my Jimmy John's make. And so I need to focus where my bread and butter is. And that's really what it came down to, is where do I need to be?
And, I think in America, in the United States, right, being a business owner is like, that's the American dream, plus having your own house. Whatever those American dreams are, those typically seem to be on the list of what's the American dream. Yet, I think it sounds so much more like neon lights, fantastic, than it probably is.
I think there's a difference. I think there's people that want to be a business owner and want to not be in the business and own the business and not show up. And there are businesses out there. If you figure them out, tell me. I'm still trying to figure that out. If you want to be successful, if you want to grow, if you want to, for me, not have turnover, you got to be present. And the amount of money you have to invest is very daunting to a lot of people. And if you don't have it to be able to do it, then it's going to be very hard to be successful in the beginning. And also, like with all the lending, I mean, you see this, I'm sure, like the lending laws change all the time. The interest rates go up, they go down, right? We built 2 stores this year with a high interest rate. I had to negotiate to make sure that we don't have a pre-penalty payment and we can renegotiate when the interest rates come down. Things like that. And so you've got to have the wherewithal to do it. And a lot of people don't. And the other thing is I think they think that they can just turn off their phone and go play golf. And I mean, I haven't played golf in so long because I don't think I can get 4 hours without being bothered, which is fine. But if it's a crisis and they need me, I'm going to pick up the phone. And so you just have to be able to do it. And not everyone wants to do that, nor should they. And not every it's a definite personality. You have to be a visionary in that role. And, some people aren't, and they're good at sales. So heck, bring them to me. I'll put them in CEO Concierge all day long to sell, right? And that's what they love. And they probably make more money than me anyways. So yeah, it's definitely takes gumption. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My grandmother, from Lincoln, Nebraska, and my grandmother in the 50s bought a bunch of single family homes and started renting them out to the University of Nebraska kids, and started her own real estate company. And it's still in the family. My sister owns it now. And my dad was a lawyer and had his own firm. My mom was a CPA, had her own firm, did a ton of clients were women business owners. So and they worked, they worked 80 hours a week, some weeks, especially during tax season. So that was kind of ingrained to me. But they also took risk. They had fun. And so that's kind of that's where I come from, I think.
You were grown in that entrepreneurial, take risks, it's okay to fail, you're gonna have to work really hard, learn from everything around you, kind of mentality environment. You were just like I said, grown in that culture.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I'm the oldest. My sister is not as much of that as me, but she definitely has some of it. She definitely has some of what my parents taught us and my grandmother, but I can definitely see the difference. She's not as a big risk taker as I am. And she probably has a lot more money than I do because of it.
Quick break in the action and we'll get right back to Jana Franklin. Want to thank one of our sponsors, City Lifestyle Magazine. They did a great write-up on the podcast and the community that we're building. You can check them out. Kelly Lamb did an episode with us, and it's been a great place to be recognized and to advertise. We've had so many people reach out to us that didn't even know we were doing this project. So I strongly recommend reaching out to her amazing team, checking out the podcast, and continuing to check out City Lifestyle and all of the cities they represent in St. Louis. But I have to imagine, owning your own business can also be stressful at home. And you talked about Rick, wanting to be a business owner too.
Yeah.
Do you think that's good that both of you are interested in that?
I would say yes and no. He and I have totally two different philosophies, so that part is not good. He loves finance. He loves, that's his world. He likes the finance part of the business, and he likes talking to the teams and stuff. But I got called out 2 weeks ago to go open a store because the GM got sick and my area manager was out of town. So I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm going in and, as we say around our house, making the donuts from the old Dunkin' Donuts commercials, I'm the one that's physically doing that work. There's Rick's like, are you kidding me? There's no way I wouldn't have that store open until noon. And so he's great with the customers and he's great with the team and the finance side, but when it comes to the operations, he's like, nope. So there's some great collaboration, but there's also like with the mistakes I've made, it's like, you made it, you own it. You should have listened to me or vice versa. And that's when it gets a little tense. I do think that our children don't want to be entrepreneurs because of it. I think they want to go their own. I think Reed, my youngest, and it's because he's more of a visionary, but I think that they see the stress. They see me having to get up at 5:30 to go bake bread and slice the meats and everything, and they're like, yeah, not doing that, right? But it is what it is. And so that's what I signed up for. So I think people have to be very eyes wide open. Especially when you're dealing with franchises, because they are selling you a franchise. They are very one-sided. And I think people get very, including us, can get very manipulative, with that. And that's the part that I don't like with at least franchise models.
I met someone not too long ago who's a franchise expert in franchise law, reading I would imagine to bring somebody in who's an expert in those contracts in that world would make a world of difference before entering into.
Yes, you got to find the right person, and they're not very many of them. So, I mean, if that person was local, I'm impressed because it's been hard to find those people in St. Louis, but. You gotta align yourself with great advisors, right? And so our banker, before they were our banker, was an advisor, which was phenomenal. Like, they would just spend time with me talking about how to approach certain things and what they look for. So then I was like, oh, that's what you look for? I thought you just looked to make sure I had money, And same with the CPA, like the tax implications of what I'm setting up. How is that going to affect me 5 years from now? Those are things that I didn't think of. And now those are the things that I'm definitely making sure I have a group of advisors. EO serves as that purpose as well. And that's been huge change for me, life-changing for that, because they've been a voice to help me go through some hard decisions, whether I should do this. Should I shut this, like for the salons, should I shut them down? Should I sell them? What should I do? And we work through that. And so that's been helpful as well, to have other people outside my marriage helping that.
And a lot of, like I said, business owners that come in and say you need to be bringing in, you need to have that board of advisors, attorney, banker, CPA, et cetera, who are there to bounce ideas off of, share experiences, that you don't have to do it all yourself or figure it out all by yourself.
Well, and that's what it comes back to, right? Doing it all by yourself. I mean, so like, for example, with my virtual assistant team, I'm like, what do you guys think? Like, is there a platform or something out there that we should be doing differently? Because I'm stuck, and they'll go figure it out and find it for me. So it's no different than a banker to me. It's like, well, should I rework this loan? Should I do this? What should I do? It's the same kind of thought process.
Who are all the advisors? So like, I kind of just threw some out, CPA, banker. But if you're running a franchise or your own business or whatever it might be, literally, who are all those people that you would have on your...
So for sure, for me, it's a business bank, not just a retail bank. I think that's important because we were with US Bank, huge. But when it came down to the business and the commercial stuff, could not help me advise, right? So business bank, what type of business bank? CPA, huge. My mom laughs because she's a retired CPA. I have been through more CPAs than anything. And finally on this last go around, I finally went and started really like deep interviewing. I got on their web, I got referrals, which I always do. And I did like interviews. I did numerous interviews for the same people, and I checked references. Like, so I'm with a firm that has a bunch of restaurants. So for me, it was important that they have exposure to restaurants. The other one is my lawyers. I actually have several different types of lawyers. Employment law is obviously huge. I'm in Illinois and in Missouri, so I need a lawyer that can handle both states. So my employment law lawyer is huge for me. And the thing is my employee issues never happen, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. My employees' issues happen Friday and Saturday nights. And I text him, and now he'll be like, don't do anything. Like, he'll just say, don't do, or he'll say, I'll call you in 5, so he responds because he knows, like, they're, at the store throwing food around and I need to get them out. What, can I call the police? Things like that. But on the same side, I have different types of lawyers. So I have I have a business lawyer that handles like what kind of corporation I'm going to be, LLC, but also handles the bylaws and just within the CEO Concierge, because I'm in every state and global, they've handled a lot of that. So it's really, those are the three key, I would say. And then I have some mentors that I'll refer to, and they are different types. So I have a mentor here in St. Louis who is in retail and manufacturing. So I, reach to him if I have some questions and, kind of, what would you do in this situation? So I think it's just aligning yourself with people that are going to have your best interest. And I also would tell you none of these people are paid. I mean, they're paid for their hours that they bill me, but as far as advice and stuff, that's not like I'm paying you, right? I can call my banker anytime and say, this is what's going on. What do you think? I can call my lawyer and be like, don't bill me for this because it's a quick question and it's totally irrelevant to any of my corporation stuff. And, and they'll be like, okay, this is what I think. And, so they don't bill me for that stuff. So I think that's important.
But you don't come out with that right out of the gate with a new banker or attorney.
I actually do when I'm interviewing them. When I interview the CPA, I said there's going to be some times that I'm going to have this wild idea that I'm going to need to run by you for either validity or to tell me I'm out of my mind, and don't bill me for that. Will you bill me for that? And they'll be like, no, I won't bill you for that. So it's like, okay, I'm marking this down and I'm making the note that you said you won't bill me for this. So those are the kind of conversations I'm saying. Now, if it's like, I need you to fix my tax return, they're going to bill me. Right. But, yeah, it's really those types of conversations that you just feel like, and if you call them on the mobile phones, half the time they won't bill you because they're in the car or they're somewhere else.
Right. And I think it's, it makes it less, as you referred to, transactional and more relational.
It is, because then they care about your business. So for example, we have a senior in high school. Our tax returns are a huge portion of his financial aid next year for his school, right? So we had a ton of conversations with our CPA about how we were handling our tax returns for 2023. It was an ongoing basis, and there'll be times where I just shoot him an email or forward an email and be like, "What do I do with this?" And he'd be like, "Don't do anything with that," and that would be it, right? And so it's. But before I would have just done it. And now I don't. I just ask. So it's not transactional. There is a care. There is a relationship there. And that is the difference with everything I do now is it's got to be relationship building. And I mean, even my contractors, they might not be the lowest people on the block for bids, but man, they come and if there's a problem, they show up on a Saturday or Sunday and fix it. And it's because we have a relationship. And so it goes everywhere.
And I would imagine it's vice versa, right? It's like not a one-sided, so that you're not just taking advantage of that.
Oh, gosh, no.
So when people listen or think out there, like you want to build, whether you're networking, building your business, you're a leader, and it's never one-sided. It's what kind of, you have to be in that game too of, you're going to get back what you put out there.
Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. John Rulin, he passed away this past August. He is the owner of a company called Giftology. It's all about referrals and giftology and loving on people, even if you're not getting anything in return from them. Because in the future, it could come back and you don't know when. And that really hits home with me. It's like, yeah, I mean, what can I do for you? What can you do for me? And it might not be today, but it could be 2 years from now. That's to me is community. The gift, and that's actually how CEO kind of started, right? It's like, how can I help these people that are stuck in the weeds?
And that's a great segue, because I was going to say all of those learning things along the way, that as you've gone, there's been some crashes, but you're learning, you're adapting, you're changing, you're learning. When did the idea for CEO Concierge start? How did it come about?
Well, we were in Palm Springs and we were at a day spa and we were talking about some issues we were having with getting certain things done. And my partner at the time, now partner, and she's like, well, she was saying like, oh, well, I have my virtual assistants do that. And I looked at her, I'm like, you have your virtual assistants do that too? And I was like, she goes, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, so I went back and I was like, hey guys, can we try this? And we did, and it was successful. And then I was like, okay, so my partner and I started ping-ponging things off of each other. And then I was like, so I think we need to do a test. So we did a test. There were 6 of us at the time. We did a test. We each interviewed 10 women business owners at the time. And I did mine in person, all locally in St. Louis. And they were like, the questions we were asking, they were very transparent with me. Pain points. What do you need? What can we do for you? So on. We just built the program off of that. And we operate on Entrepreneur's operating system. It's called EOS. And that allows us to really get very, not narrow, but really get it down on paper what we're going to do. Like we have quarterly rocks. We meet every Monday. My team meets every Monday as a team. We talk about to-dos, issues, accountability. where are we going? We have a 90-day, a 1-year plan, I actually make it a 7-year plan because in 7 years I will be 60. So I was like, okay, at 60, what do I want to have accomplished? So we work towards that. It's always changing. Our core values don't change, but what the meaning behind them could change. And we revisit those every quarter as a team. And so with all that in place, we were like, let's go. And we put it out there in the EO world. And I put it out there to some of the people that I had talked to on these interviews and some of the other people that I had talked to. And we said, we're ready to rock and roll. And we launched it, and it's been all referral basis. We're at about 40 clients right now. And we do part-time and full-time. So I think that makes a huge difference too, especially I've noticed with our female clients, because they want to walk before they run. So I'm like, well, if you've never had a VA, let's start part-time, because then you guys can learn to get how you can work together and collaborate and so forth. And then you can ramp up. And they're ramping up. Or if there, God forbid, is a problem, we can move easier when they're part-time versus ingrained in that. And we haven't had too many problems. My whole shtick is I am proactive. I'm seeing the red flags before the client's seeing the red flags. And therefore, and I'm very transparent with my clients. I will pick up the phone and call them and be like, hey, are you hearing anything from your virtual assistant about her health? And she'll be like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I'm catching wind of this. We might have to do something about this. And so then it starts to move. And so we will, if that's the case, we will start training a new virtual assistant, and we'll have that VA help train, and then we'll slot them in, and we'll take the old assistant out.
How do you find that out? Because I'm envisioning the business owner, the VA, they're talking, they're doing their work. You're out of that loop.
So for every 10 VAs, they have a team leader. And they are talking to their team leader and meeting with their team leader at least once a week. But every VA has to submit at the end of their day an end of day report of what they did and what they were doing. And the other thing that we have instituted is everyone has to be on some type of database management, because Philippines is in typhoon season right now. And so we've had some electricity issues. And so the team leader can step in and take over for that VA that day, and the client doesn't see a hiccup, or they're sick or something, right? And so the team leaders are very ingrained, and that's why they're only working with 10 VAs. They're very ingrained to what's going on with the client. I have a client relations person that's dealing with the clients as well. I deal with the clients. It's all hands on deck, really, and everyone has the ability to step in and help each other if need to be. Like that client I was talking about with the spreadsheet, two of the team leader and actually one of my recruiters that's like so professional level on Airtable were the two that helped him build the Airtable process for him and gave it to him. And so it's all hands on deck. We really act as a team and help. I've had to train a VA on how to do a capital raise for his client. So things like that. So I'll get on a training if I have to as well.
So what's the most surprising thing? Like if I said, okay, that's interesting, a VA, I'm overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. I'm angry, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, all that. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what could my VA actually do for me? What's the norm, and what's like, what would we not think of that they can do?
So the norm is email and calendar management, but also correspondence. So we have a process that we have built in for our clients that if it's they have to, like, they'll WhatsApp their client and say, you have an important email you have to respond to in like the next 30 minutes. If otherwise, it goes all the way to like D. So the VAs are answering the emails as the client. So they are the voice of the client. They are doing the same on their social medias, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, whatever they need them to do. Those are the big ones, booking travel, expense reimbursement, so forth. The one I'm dealing with one right now, he owns a digital marketing firm. He wants a digital marketer VA, but he also wants the VA to be able to travel. So that was one that I was like, oh, that's new. He wants the VA to be able to meet him a client and he's in Brazil and the VA's in Philippines, and he knows that because he has clients all over the world too. But he's like, yeah, I want the VA to be able to meet me with this client that we've been maybe working on for 3 months. I want them to be able to come. So that one was a new one for me, because that was the first time I've ever seen someone like that. But it's really, for us, it's executive assistant, booking travel, calendar management, email management, whether it's also personal. I have a couple that are Airbnb hosts, so they're handling all the Airbnb posts and doing all, like, arranging the cleaning, all that. We have property management. We have some real estate agents offices. We have doctor offices, so I have HIPAA certified VAs, a few paralegals, a lot of bookkeepers, several graphic designers. The one area that I have noticed in the Philippines we struggle with is more of the human resource side. And so we will look to go to Latin America and South America to add that in, because they are stronger in human resources. There are certain countries that have certain niches that they're stronger at. Like we have a lot of people doing website building as well. So it's really like, I've had several calls where I'm like, that is not us. Let me refer you to someone. And so I'll pass it on to someone else I know. Because if I can't do it, I want them to be able to have the ability to find someone to do it. So that's important. But so our process to bring them on is also very stringent, right? They have to do a Microsoft Office assessment, especially for Excel, because most of them are building spreadsheets, and they have to be able to write. And so we're doing English tests. We're doing typing skills tests. We're checking their internet. We are doing personality. They have to have 2 years of experience in virtual assistants. They've had to work a graveyard shift. So those are all the requirements just to get the interview. And then about 85% do not make it past the initial interview. And then about 85% don't make it past the placement interview. And when we get in the placement interview is when we do the personality profile as well. And then from there, if they make it past there, I'm doing the final interviews, because I'm coming at it from the point of the client. And I'm asking off-the-wall questions that an entrepreneur or business owner would ask. Or, hey, how do you deal with my... I call it whack-a-mole. How are you dealing with me being a whack-a-mole today? Because today, like, oh, I need that. Oh, no, I need this. Nope, this is your priority. Nope, this is your priority. How are you going to deal with that? So I'm asking questions. I'm coming at it from the client's point of view. If they get past me, they're probably hired if I approve them. There's some that I get on, I'm like, oh my God, you're going to be great for so-and-so, right? And there's some I'm like, yeah, you're great, but I'm not sure who you're going to be great for yet. So about 50% of our clients interview their VAs. Others are like, I trust you. I don't have time for this. Go. And the attrition it's not one way or another. And we haven't had a lot of attrition. So I knock on wood that's still status quo.
What's the biggest mistake people make, CEOs or whoever make, when bringing on a virtual assistant?
If the person's in the office next to you, or it's been working for you a while, they're making mistakes, right? They're not asking clarifying questions, or you're not giving clarifying clear instructions. So that to me is the biggest thing, because there's this hesitance. So it's trust. There's this hesitance about giving the VA that to work on, but you're never going to know until they try. And same with the person in the next build office. And so I try to say, like, you got to give them a chance to try, because I could have 5 things on my list and that thing is number 5 and it's never getting done because I'm always putting more. I'm like, well, at least if my VA is working on number 5 and gets 80% of it done and gives me something to work off of to edit, then that's more than I had done. And so that's where I'm like, just let them try and see, let them ask you clarifying questions, let them get the ball rolling, because then it's going to get done. And you don't have to put the effort in. And I have a tendency to start to get crabby if number 5 isn't getting done.
If you keep seeing it on your list over and over.
Because I have to check things off my list, right? And so that is a big one. Like, I'm like, just let them try it. let them try it. And yes, they're going to have to ask you questions, but it's getting done. It's not something that's still sitting. And that to me, I think is the biggest mistake, because it's between trust and control. Right?
Sounds like let it go, allow them to try.
Yeah.
Be as clear as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Allow them to ask clarifying questions and then adapt along the way, which is both good for a virtual assistant and just
in general
life in general. I mean, coming from, and I'm sure my husband, I'm not even going to look over there in the corner, is probably like, that's, great coming from you, a type A, CPA background, perfectionist. You hear those things of 80 is better than 100.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they can give me even 50, I can sit there and go, okay, I haven't been able to start this. You've started it, and I can go and redline. I'd rather print it off and write notes on it and scratch through things and get it going and let them do it. If they also like, you need a standard operating procedure for that. And I'm like, I do? Okay, knock yourself out. Right? And they do it. And I'm like, heck, I have 120 SOPs in this company. I maybe have 5 in Jimmy John's. And now I don't. I have a lot more. But I mean, I'm just like, good Lord, that let them do the things they do well. But with that, I also say to my virtual assistants, you have your client's attention for those 30 minutes on your call. You better be asking the right questions and repeating back to them what you're hearing. Because as soon as they get off, they're on to the next thing and they think and if you have to bug them, they're going to get frustrated, and that's when they think things aren't working. I could have just done this myself. So that is the huge thing, and they want to do well. They want to do well. Majority of my virtual assistants in the Philippines are women with children, so the kids are in school during the day. That's when they sleep. They're with their children when they get home from school through dinner. The kids go to bed. They work. It's perfect for them. And I used to think that until I went to the Philippines, they were full of it with their traffic. We had to go to our lawyer over there. He is literally 15 miles away. It took us an hour and a half. Traffic is so bad over there. So they don't want to commute. They are starting to get pulled back into the office too. And commuting can take 3 hours for some of them. Yeah. So when you have young kids and you want to, it's like, okay, well, I've got to do this. I've got to stay home. So I have CPAs applying for bookkeepers, and so the level of professionalism that you're getting is great. I come from Jimmy John's. I have a high turnover rate. One of the things I said when I'm going into this company is, what can I do to make sure we don't lose these people? And I'm not giving them everything, but it is a very mutual agreement. Whereas Jimmy John's, it's like, they just didn't feel like coming to work today, so they're not coming to work, right? And so it's been just so eye-opening and so refreshing.
When you think about it too, especially with what I do, normal day job, that think about evolution in life, right? When you're first out of college and, if you have a house, maybe you start with an apartment or you live at home for a while. Eventually you get that house, you have some kids, you hire out the lawn work, you hire out a cleaner, you add things, you have a daycare, whatever. You might have a nanny or somebody driving your kids around. I mean, you do add help in so that you can be better at your job. Or when you are home, you're not doing the lawn, angry yelling at the kids to just, take out the trash, whatever that might be. So when you think of it, when I think of it from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. But who do you find comes to you most?
It is the entrepreneurs that are around $1 million to about 35 million that are running on teams of 10 to 20, but they're still in their business. They still want to be in their business, but they don't want to be doing all the crap that comes with it, and they still get pulled in. They're in their business, they're not on their business. I think the people that are working on their business are people that have such the support at their C-suite and below them, whereas our clients can't afford to pay those people that wage, think that they can't think they can do it themselves, just kind of get stuck in they're in their own way, and so I think it's really like, and also they recognize they're not good at certain things. I think it's the people that don't think. I think there's people out there that think they're good at everything, and they're not good. They don't need help, right? So I think for us, it's really that business entrepreneur that's wearing a lot of hats, that wants to wear some hats but doesn't want to wear them all.
So they come to the realization, I probably need some help here.
Yeah.
What's that process?
Oh boy. We get on a call. I had a call yesterday. Like, I had an entrepreneur reach out to me on Friday. He's like, I just lost my office manager. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, let's have a call. And he's like, well, can you talk Sunday? And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll talk Sunday. But, and we talked, and we ended up talking for an hour, and I was just kind of sharing some things with him. And he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Like, he was looking at replacing his office manager, and I was talking about AI and certain things. And he uses some automation. He's like, wait, I didn't even think about incorporating that stuff. So we do a discovery call, and then we do a couple forms, personality profile for sure. I try and guess too what they are. So we use Culture Index. There's 16 traits. And so I try and guess based on the conversation I'm having. I'm usually pretty close. I'm usually one off usually, but and then we use that to help them find their VA, because if they are, I have one client, he's a daredevil, which means that he takes all risks, jumps off the cliffs, and doesn't do anything behind him, right? He's like, has a new idea every day. And so his VA has to be very can handle all the flip-flopping, but needs to be detailed, but also daredevils usually are very big personalities, and so has to be able to keep up with that pace. And so that is a harder personality to find, to place a virtual assistant with, but it's actually fun because he actually does interview his VAs, and some of the questions he asks, I'm like, I didn't even think about that. Where did that question come from? So I take things that they're asking and put it in my in my repertoire too. So it's about a 3-week process from the discovery call, signing the contract, to getting them onboarded and placed with their virtual assistant. And we say, you tell us what you want them to work. So I have one that's like, oh, I want 30 hours a week. Okay, fine. We have some that are seasonal, because they are CPAs and they're working for a company during the tax season, and then come June they don't have as many hours. So that's understandable with those roles, but it's very specific for each client. It's not something that is mass. It is not something that one shoe fits all. It's really where the concierge part comes in for us, is that we're meeting the needs of the client, however they are, and also meeting the needs of the VA. So they become not a family, but they definitely become close.
And with some of those extra layers of either regulations or testing or expertise, like you mentioned, HIPAA or paralegals, this is assisting to a different degree or level. Yeah. Well,
it's still reporting to the CEO or the owner of the company, or if the CEO is the visionary, they might be reporting to the integrator, or the COO, but the head honcho is still there, still like, hey, you guys need to make sure you're connecting and working through it. I've seen that numerous times. And actually, if we have a VA that's going to be working for several different people, we do the profile assessment on all of them to make. We have a company, a client right now. It's three owners, and so we tested all 3 owners to make sure we could find a VA that fit right in the middle for all of them, and they love her. Love her. Do not have anything bad to say about her ever. And, I'm like, well, you want to take her full time? Yeah.
I got an idea.
Yeah, exactly. So things like that. But we really try to make sure that the client's needs are being met.
How do they come to you, find you?
Oh, that's been the challenge, right? So we're on LinkedIn, but really it's been referrals for us. So we're on LinkedIn for client purposes. We're on Facebook for VA purposes, because we recruit several different ways. I just try and get out there and network and, hey, if you know someone that needs someone, let me know. This person I talked to yesterday actually was someone recommended, hey, you need to talk to Jana. I'm a client of hers. You need to talk to Jana. And he was like, I didn't even know you were doing this. And I was like, crap, my marketing is not working. I got to figure that out. Right. So that was a conversation we had with the marketing team today is, okay, I can't do it all, guys. We've got to figure out how to get more out there. But at the same time, I want to grow, but I don't want to grow at the sake of our culture, our processes, our customer service. That is what makes me nervous with this type of business, is that I don't want to lose the personal touch. And that is my fear when you get in this type of service getting too big.
Is layered through all of the different businesses and ventures that you went through.
Yeah.
I think, you've said that earlier today about this or this, that it's all about that service and touch and specialness.
Yeah, because to me, it's about connection. And I might not agree with some of my workers or my clients, but I'm still like, hey, we're in this together. Like, what can I do to support you, and vice versa? It's, to me, it's about community. And that, I think, is the biggest thing. And I think we all crave it.
I was just saying, sitting here as a leader, like if you want to be a good leader or you're looking to find a good leader, I feel like those are many of the traits you should either embody, learn how to, or search to have a good leader. That kind of culture, values, listened to, collaborated with, that service level of do the right thing, help others, because it all comes back to you and more of what you said.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe it's because I've gotten older too, like I'm like, I want to be with people that want to be with me. Right. So I want to give my all to clients that want their all. And if I'm wasting your time and my time, then, go talk to this place or go do this. But it really comes down to that in the end.
It's a lesson in life about who are you, who do you want to be, so who do you want to attract, and goes back to whoever said it first, that the 5 people that you surround yourself with, that is who you are and or who you will become, and is super important.
For sure. I did that. That's funny you bring that up. In 2017, I did that list because I was like, someone had said that to me, and I was like, you know what, I really need to think about that. And I did that list, and I was like, don't like them, don't like them, don't like them, don't like what I'm becoming because of that. So that's part of the halt with the Jimmy Johns was because of that list.
Well, we're still talking, so apparently, we made the list okay.
Yeah. Yes.
We made the cut back in 17.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's true, and it's going back to, it's okay to let those people go that, they talk about like the pack, right? You're only as good as your slowest person or your weakest link. Where do you want to go, and how far do you want to go? And it's not being cutthroat or anything. It's just saying this is this person, this thing, this thought, this feeling, this emotion, this block is no longer serving me.
Correct. Yeah. I have a friend who said to me one time, when I terminate people, I tell them that you need to go find your excellent elsewhere. And that always resonated with me because she knows that they're going to be excellent, but it's just not with her because for whatever reason. And so even when they resign, has the same mentality as like, go forth, young person or old person, whatever, but go find your excellence because clearly I can't give it to you. And that has always kind of stuck with me as well. I kind of say that to my kids, go find it.
Which, that's a good way to put it, because you're often thought or taught to, if there's a breakup, even that word is bad, right? That the feelings around it are bad, when in actuality, it just wasn't fitting. And all sides of that relationship are going to end up finding their excellent.
Yeah, actually, it's funny when you just said that, because I was just thinking about that. I had an assistant manager working for me at one of our Jimmy John's right when we first opened this store. He was awesome. I loved him. He was great sense of humor, just a good hard worker, young kid. Left to go to college. Great. Haven't seen him in 10 years. He reached out. He's coming back to us as a corporate trainer, catering manager for us. And I'm just like, when can you come? Because it just the level. So it's come back because he went and did other things, and he lives by Columbia. I mean, he's moving and everything. But you treat people right, they're gonna hopefully come back in some way or form of gratitude. Like, okay, thank you.
Full circle to what you said earlier was you just go in to try to help people or to learn more, build that relationship, and you never know down the road. Something will happen somewhere where it will come back. It might be 5, it might be 10 years later.
Yeah.
But those good vibes, that boomerang comes back your way, some way, somehow.
Yeah. Those are things I think I've definitely learned through being a business owner. You can get down the dumps. I mean, I have a high turnover at Jimmy John's. I'm running shifts sometimes, and there's days where I'm like, crap, right? But then I'm just like, I'm also like, it is what it is, and there's the good and there's the bad, and today is the bad. Oh well, but I know that as a business owner, and that's where the difference comes into place, and also for my team not to see me having those thoughts too, right? Because they're like, oh, Jana's in a bad mood. Like, that's the worst.
Well, you also don't want to be one of those that's always like, everything's perfect, guys, because they see right through that.
Oh, yeah.
But you also can't be like, the sky is falling.
Right. Moderation's good, right? I have a saying in the company: you don't vent down, you don't vent sideways, you vent up. I when I hear that happening, I go straight to the person that's doing it. I said, what's going on? Having hard conversations, you've got to be able to have hard conversations. Conflict resolution is big, right? And so I think that's very important, to be able to be transparent, to be able to go have those conversations, to keep that culture going. And in Jimmy John's, one of our key value, our core values, is integrity. You say you're going to do it, you do it. If you can't, please communicate. I'm not going to get upset, but communicate. If you can't communicate, well, then we got the problem, right?
Well, that sounds easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
To build that environment where they're not venting down sideways, they're venting up. But not everyone can build that environment.
Right.
So what are the tips, tricks to do that?
I'm very transparent, and I over-communicate. I'm an over-communicator. And, I think Rick's like, you don't need to say that to them. You don't need to tell them that. And I'm like, but I'm going to, because that's what I do. And so I think that allows them to feel like they're being heard and that I care, because I'm telling them things. I'm not telling them like, oh my God, we're not going to make payroll. I'm not doing like the sky's falling. I'm not doing that. But I'm telling them like, yeah, yesterday was kind of a mess, guys. As a team, we had 2 call-offs. Thank you to so-and-so and so-and-so for, picking up and staying longer or whatever. But really communicating that and showing gratitude. 1 Minute Manager is a big book that Jimmy John's, when you first start, makes you read. And so that was one of the things that I really took to heart. That helps with that.
I think it goes back to some of the buzzwords today, right? Vulnerability, authenticity. So being open and sharing makes them feel like they can do the same thing, but also that they're part of the team, an important part of the team, versus just you're a 9-to-5 or you're
Right.
whatever. Like you're just a number.
The only thing I would say that I have found that backfires on me on that is I will, if I'm having a conversation with someone in person, then all of a sudden I'm the only one getting that text message. And so I'm like bringing the manager in and the area manager and being like, okay, remember we have to include these two in this conversation because you and I had the conversation, and they know because I called them both and told them what was going on, but you're communicating with me still via the text message. We have to include them. So like kind of always reiterating that it's not just me, it's the team. And hopefully the team is also, oh, this is how Jana handles it. So maybe this is how I can handle it.
Right.
Hopefully,
they're learning from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a reminder of let's have the conversation with the right person at the right level, at the right place.
Exactly. And that's where the venting up comes into play. Because if they're not venting up, it comes across as gossiping and cattiness, and then you've got a whole store up in arms that you and none of the. I have walked into so many times into a store and they'll say something to me. I'm like, wait, where did you hear that? And they'll be like, da da da. I go, well, I have never said that, ever, ever, ever. So if you guys don't hear it from me, then it's probably not true. Trying to reiterate that and just be like, okay. Always making sure that they feel they're being heard, which is hard sometimes as a business owner because you're wearing a lot of hats and you're like, oh, I have to go deal with this next. Oh, I have to go deal with this next. And you're like zoned out when the person's talking to you. Not good. Not good at all. It's happened. Not going to lie.
And, good learning tips for being married or having a partner, for being a parent, for coaching sports or whatever, to over communicate in the right ways to the right people, get in front of, direct to any kind of issues, conflict. And when you can build an environment of trust and openness where they know, oh no, they're going to, if this is a thing, they're going to own it. They're going to talk about it. They're going to come out with it. Not a culture of, I don't know, like what can we, and fear.
Yeah. Fear. I will say there's been a couple times I have a lot of, teenagers at the DePere store, because they're all, Knox's friends. And I've walked in a couple times and I'm totally kidding around, but the kids are like, holy crap. And I'm like, I'm kidding. And Knox will be ever like, Mom, you're not funny, because I'm kidding with them and they're like deer in the headlights. And I'm like, okay, your mom knows I'm probably kidding. You probably don't know I'm kidding.
So lots of good, I told you early on, this time's going to fly by. There's so much good information just on your journey, things you've learned from being a business owner, franchise owner, things that you shared as a leader to help with cultures and getting the excellence out of people. And then also how CEO Concierge can come in to help multiply more people to do those things that they're passionate about, they love, and hopefully expel some of the anger and the tiredness and the health and mindset, physiological issues that they're coming through.
Not losing their hair, right? Like, been seeing all those commercials for Nutrafol, and they're like, okay, is it all business owners on here or what?
Or maybe those are the shows where the old people are watching, and they're like, oh, I know what you're saying.
Exactly. I mean, it's important for us as business owners to have our outlets to vent. Rick is not my outlet to vent because he wants to fix the problem when it comes to the business. And I'm like, well, that's not why I'm telling you. I'm just telling you because I'm worn out. It would have been no different when I was coming home from May Company. You couldn't fix that problem. You just let me vent. It's, so EO has been a huge part of that. Our group of friends have been a huge part of that. We all come from different backgrounds. And so it's important to make sure that you have that support as well.
Be very cognizant of the communities you're building around you, the help that you're getting and seeking, because you should be seeking help. And once you build it, protect it and you'll have a ton of support that you couldn't have even imagined, even those beside your spouses who can listen to you then.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you for coming today and
you.
trusting us to share your story, and that, all this good conversation is going to happen. It always does. So you can find Jana, CEO Concierge. You can go to Jimmy John's, go on, LinkedIn, Facebook if you want to be a virtual assistant. Go out searching. You'll find ways to contact you and get the help you need.
Yep, ceoconcierge.com.
Great.
That's our website. So, thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
This concludes another episode of the She Lift Project podcast. To hear more episodes of the show, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about our mission of helping women reach higher levels of success, visit sheliftproject.com and sign up to receive the latest news, ebooks, videos, and more.